Can you imagine always having your needs met? Fulfilling your needs with Deb Goldberg and Mira Rubin, starting now. Welcome, everyone, to A Divinely Ordered Life on Angel Heart Radio. It is a great pleasure for me to be here with you today, hosting you, and it's an honor to serve you in the highest ways that I can by bringing you messages of divine love and blessings for your life. You are dearly loved, cherished, and blessed. We have an awesome show for you today. We have Mira Rubin with us, and so I want to welcome you, Mira, to Angel Heart Radio.
I'm so glad to be here with you, Deb. Thank you.
I am too. Mira and I spend time and off and on together doing things on Enlightened World Network, and great camaraderie, sister love. So we're just so excited to have you here. And I want to tell you a little bit about Mira. She is really a unique mix of a social entrepreneur, a techie nerd, and coaching genius. And Mira is a visionary following her heart and her calling to create a world that works while guiding others to manifest their dreams. Trained in NLP, hypnosis, and applied kinesiology, Mira developed a transformational modality in 1987 called Core Connection that she integrates in her work with coaching clients to effect profound, rapid, and lasting change. Her clients experience foundational shifts of being that result in expansive new opportunities and accomplishment, an expanded experience of freedom and empowered stewardship of their lives. And Mira also has a show on Enlightened World Network called Your Core Connection. And that is on every morning at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern. So I'm just so happy to have you here and talk about uh, this awesome conversation about fulfilling your needs. But before we get started, can you just tell people a little bit how you got started on your spiritual path and how it brought you to
Sure.
here?
Yeah, I just want to make one small correction. Whoops. And that is that I'm on Enlightened World at 9 a.m. Eastern on weekdays.
On weekdays. Okay, thank you.
So how I got started was when I was about 15 years old, I had an enlightenment experience. And in that experience, Uh, I went beyond any sense of time or space or identity, really. What happened was I was on the phone and I said to a friend, I know, and all of a sudden I was catapulted into being knowing. And it changed my life. It shaped my life. And since that time, I've been in pursuit of reclaiming that experience, recovering the ability or access to that dimension of awareness. So that's what got me started.
That's amazing. And to have it so young at 15.
Well, I say it's given me my life and it's ruined my life because, you
What do
know,
you mean by that?
well, it shaped me because it put me on a path to be trying to access that awareness again. But it's also been a source of having had that experience and having it not not being able to find it again has been deeply frustrating um, and saddening in a lot of ways, and to realize that there's something so much more, and then to be here and not knowing how to navigate in this realm when that felt like the most real experience of my life. It's like, well, what is this? What is this? So that's my whole life's been, what is this? and finding my way through and finding hypotheticals to work with until the time that I recover or re-access that again.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I think, for all of us, we're all going, what is this? Especially today.
Right?
You're like, what is this? What am I seeing? What am I witnessing? I don't understand what I'm witnessing. Um,
But even
and
beyond that, Deb, like not only what am I witnessing, but who am I? What am I? What is the nature of reality? That has always been my my most passionate question and inquiry.
mhm. Yeah, and it's beautiful. It's what we're all here to do. We're all here to awaken
Yeah.
and return home to our divine nature and understand who we are. So that's my belief anyway.
I kind of think that we're here to have experience,
Hmm.
you
That
know,
too.
and expand consciousness in the universe. So our having experience adds to the database, so to speak, so that it just expands and expands. And as I'm evolving in my awareness, I'm coming to believe that we're here to be life expressing itself.
Hmm. Yes, definitely. And that's what we are, but it's really hard to wrap that around your head because everything you see outside of you is life itself and you're part of it. You're one with it. So, but you can understand that maybe intellectually, but to really understand that you are one with the blade of grass and the trees and the bees and the structure that you're living in and everything that, and I look at it as it's all consciousness.
I do too.
It's, yeah. So it's all consciousness, and consciousness is just taking on different forms for you to have this experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. It's,
And to
it's,
expand itself,
hmm.
so yeah, life is the expression of consciousness. And well, if we take that even further, I've been learning that consciousness is, or getting a deeper visceral understanding of consciousness is in all things. It's not just what we perceive as living or sentient, but
Hmm.
everything is consciousness.
Hmm. Yeah, and then consciousness. And it's interesting for everybody has their own unique truth. Everyone it's their own movie. So they learn their own secret of life. I call it's a bunch of myths because it's really hard to understand what this miracle is that we're experiencing and part of. So each person's going to have their own special gifts of how to come into their unique self and to express themselves as love, as light. And so from person to person, you're going to have different teachings. And so you have your experience of awakening. I have my experience of awakening. And so I'm getting taught by what I call divine love God, which is also myself. Um, and that it's narrating this experience for me as I go along. It's telling me what this is the story I wrote for you. This is the way I want you to see things. This is how I want you to understand the life that you're living and yourself. And so through that, I get all of this information for my unique experience. And it's just amazing to hear each person, like you waking up at 15 and like knowing you are consciousness, you are all that exists. Um, and, and so another description of consciousness is divine love. It is, it is perfection. It is oneness. It is energy. And that's what I call God. That and when you do the internal work, we all start to understand that we're not separated from that we are one with that, we are completely abundant, completely whole, completely everything that we're actually looking for on the outside. We already are that. And the whole journey is accepting it.
which is a tall order for a lot of people.
It's a
Uh,
tall order for me too.
yeah, and I think there's so many different levels that we can experience our experience from. You know, like on some level, I know that there's no such thing as life and death,
Mhm.
you know, and I still bleed, I still get hurt, and maybe there'll be a place when I don't, you know, maybe there'll be a place where I transcend that. But um, I think that it's really it's such we started having a conversation before we actually went on air, and we realized that it gets into tough territory to talk about after a point, you know, where um, we were talking about free will and fate and uh, I whether we even exist as individuals. And so, on some level, we can recognize that this is just the way I think of it is it's the 5 ticket ride. Like we go to the amusement park, and we maybe some people go on the haunted in a haunted house, and other people go on the roller coaster, and other people just go on the softer, easier rides. And
Mhm.
you know, it's like an immersive holographic movie.
Mhm. Totally. Totally agree with it. From my understanding, um, I agree with all of that, but what I've been taught for myself is it's already written. Like the story's already written and it's already happened in a blink of an eye, or even less than that. And and I look at this as a review process that I'm actually reviewing that life with consciousness, with God, and have an opportunity to react differently every time it gets replayed to me.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah. So I either my I'm going to come upon the same patterns I had at 5 and 10 and 20 and 30, and they're replaying in front of me now in this new era, this new age with new people wrapped in different costumes. And how am I going to react to this same story?
Like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, like Groundhog Day. And so each time we get a opportunity to, okay, how am I going to witness it this time? Am I going to feel it? Am I going to play into it? Am I going to act like it's happening, that it's really happening, or am I just watching a familiar movie play out again in front of me?
Mm, mm.
So, and so my teaching's a little bit different in that way because I'm looking at it as it's a story that was created for me for this experience. And so we were talking about, yes, fate and free
Free
will.
will. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have a little different take on it, but
Hmm.
hey, you know what?
Who
The
knows?
exactly, exactly. And so more and more, I'm really truly interacting with the things I identify with and the beliefs I identify with as working hypotheses. Because it's not like it's truth with a capital T. And I don't know that I'd ever have access to truth with a capital T other than that moment where I was knowing, where I was consciousness. That felt like the most true thing
Hmm.
I've ever experienced. And I still have that is something that is the one thing I know,
Hmm.
which is kind of ironic because I don't have the experience of it, but I have the knowing of it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's
But
beautiful. It's really, it's because, some people haven't even got in touch with that, knowing that knowingness is there.
yeah, yeah, I think, well, it like, it was a blessing and a curse. What can I say? But, But about the free will and fate. So the way that I reconciled that in thinking about it for a number of years was to sort of look at the notion of how physics imagines that all that time doesn't really exist as except as a construct, that all things, all possibilities are already existing all the time. And so in that imagining, I imagine that there are an infinite number of timelines with all kinds of variations, and that they are fixed, but we have free choice. So when we're presented with an opportunity in our given timeline to choose, then that choice catapults us into another timeline. And usually the choices do not make such a radical change of life that we even notice that there's something different. And then there are those times when something is like, but I remember it this way, but that's not jiving with my experience right now. Like I had a weird experience along that line where I had these two earrings that I would wear all the time, but they were different from one another. And so I always wore one of them in one ear and the other one always was in the other ear. And then one day I'm looking at the earrings and they're reversed. So it's like, wait a second, I remember putting that one in this ear, not that. And I had a photograph of the earrings, and I went and I looked at the photograph, and the photograph aligned with the current version of the earrings, but I could have sworn
Mm-hmm.
that it was opposite. And so those kinds of discordances kind of say, okay, well, the jump from one timeline to another was more dramatic, and there were other differing factors there that are showing up in these weird anomalies. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my working hypothesis.
Right, right, right. And they're amazing because we all have our own. Because when we go and connect to that divine love, that consciousness, we're given our own truth. You are giving your truth. Um, and and so when I put a capital T on truth, it's whatever I'm being told. But it doesn't mean that it's true for everybody. It's my truth of how I'm supposed to see my experience.
So this is another interesting thing because I know that you communicate with God and with Jesus and with angels, and I don't consciously. Um, and the guidance that I receive, I imagine receiving from what I call my higher self, and the universe that I live in is constructed from this consciousness that is um, part of the grander consciousness, but a consciousness that is guiding or directing the machinations of my particular experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was interesting because my description doesn't sound the same as yours, but apparently we really have the same notion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. So the way I look at it is this is an illusion. And here's my story. I'm a character in a book. I'm I'm Deb. This is my costume. And that part of my story is God and Jesus and the angels because it goes along with Deb's story. And that all it is consciousness showing up in different forms the same way that it does outside of you. But there's only one. So you want to call it your higher self, you want to call it God, whatever you want to call it, because you are the higher self. There's no separation from anything. So it is like consciousness prepared this story for me and is giving me everything I need to fulfill the story that was given to me.
Cool.
Yeah, that it's complete illusion because there's, uh, there's only oneness as energy. It's infinite creation. It is
Right.
imagination.
Right.
It's all imagination. So that's what we're doing, is we're playing out creation's imagination.
Exactly. It's a way for creation and consciousness to know itself.
Hmm. To
Right.
know itself, actually, I'm told it's supposed to be fun, that we're
Yeah.
supposed to have a fun experience, enjoying knowing, especially when you wake up and you understand the truth and you feel safe and you feel cared for and loved, because that's all that surrounds you, and know that it's an illusion so that you can go about what you were supposed to do here. Because I believe there's a passion that's put into all
I
of our
do too.
hearts, that, that is our calling, or whatever you want to call it. Uh, there's a purpose for us being here to play out on God's stage, on creation stage. And
I mean, even if that purpose is to amplify consciousness, like to add to the database, so to
mhm,
speak. But eh, to your point, when you say we're supposed to enjoy it, so I want to make a parallel because so many people suffer.
mhm,
We all, we suffer, we experience pain, we experience heartache, we experience hardship. And it's like, how am I supposed to enjoy that? Well, it's like going to a movie, and you go to the movie and you cry and you laugh and you're horrified, and
mhm,
you go through all these experiences, and it's like all experience is good experience. It's like whatever we have, these physical manifestations that are the vehicle through which we get to have a sensual living experience. And even though it's all illusion, we get to feel cold and feel hot and feel joy and feel sorrow and feel pain. And there is an ecstasy in the actual experience for the sake of experience. And in that way, oh wow, that was a great ride, or like
mhm,
that movie that brought me to jubilant high and devastating low and all of that. That was an incredible movie.
mhm.
And that's what it's about. Think I think we
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, yeah. It's supposed to be fun. And I've had quite a few conversations with Jesus about, I don't want to play anymore. You can just take me home now. because,
Yeah.
because I took too many paths into the horror house that you described. The start of my life. And so I'm like, no, you can take me home now. I'm done playing. I just want to play in the field of love.
Yeah.
And not in the field of illusion.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, and that's the free will part. The free will part is, I get an opportunity to experience myself all the time, and how am I going to, how am I going to use my free will to experience that opportunity? Because you're experiencing your full self. Even though this is an illusion, it comes across as an energetic memory of everything in your life, and um, and that you're experiencing the fullness of you in every moment. You're experiencing being 5, reacting to something, or 10. You're experiencing your birth. You're experiencing everything in this one moment. And um, and how that works, I have no idea. But it's it's a magical miracle that we're
I
even sitting here having this conversation.
It is. It is. And it's fun. This is
Mhm.
this is my most favorite kind of conversation, actually, because it's mind bending.
Uh-huh. It is mind
Literally.
bending.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Uh,
And we can't come up with a definitive answer. It is play, and it's sort
mhm,
of creative play,
mhm,
and a way to connect on another level. I used
mhm.
to try and have these conversations. People told me I was nuts. And so I'm so grateful now to find other crazy people that
Uh-huh.
are engaging in the same inquiries.
Well, if you think about it, consciousness, the creation has given us so much to play with. And people that study the stars and the universe, right? Or how people came up with electricity or an airplane or anything, that, you know, the imagination of consciousness is profound. And so I think it's, you know, it's like a mystery. It's a big mystery that we're all trying to figure out, how does this work? And what's really the truth about it? And I know when you're a seeker, that's what you're seeking, is what is the truth? Well, who am I? What am I? What is this? And then trying to understand it in your own way, your own unique way. And that's why I say that they're all myths. Everything is a myth because we don't understand the truth of how this works. I just get told it's not real. It's like a dream. You want to call it an illusion, a hologram, whatever you want to call it that makes your head understand it. But it's not real. It's just a projection of a story. And you're always safe. Nothing's ever happening to you ever. That you are wrapped in complete love, because that's all that's there. And you get all these interesting supportive events that happen to help you actually remember who you are and go back home.
Well, and I think that the part where you say nothing ever happens to you and you're safe, that's your essence. That's not necessarily your human form.
Well, you know, it's really interesting, Mira. I had this amazing conversation with Jesus when he started dictating books to me. And the abuse that I dealt with growing up came up. And he said, Deb, it didn't really happen. And I said, don't tell me it didn't happen. I feel it in my body. Have like body memories. I know in my mind that this happened. He said, it didn't. And he said, it's a dream. It's like having a nightmare sometimes. It's a dream. And that is all that it is. And it took me a long time to digest that, because if it was anybody else telling me that, I wouldn't have believed it. And I had a hard time with him telling me that, what he told me. And I really had to take that in. And over time, it's sort of like, am I going to believe what I'm being told? Or am I going to come up with my own ideas of what happened? And so I started having questions. I started asking, so that means that I don't really have any scars from anything? And he said, no, there's no scars ever. Nothing's happened. You
Well,
just
then
believe it.
there's no living, there's no dying.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And you're just somehow experience this with our senses. You're experiencing everything with your senses, but it's not going in. It's
Well,
not
the senses don't exist either.
right. It's all
Yeah.
an illusion. Yes.
And so that's asking a lot of
It
most
is
people.
asking a lot. It asks a lot of me. It asks me a lot of me, of having faith in what I'm being taught.
Well, it's really saying, don't be a human, be a consciousness.
Hmm.
You know, because the what that's talking about is the level of all of this, that if it is all an illusion, we're not even here.
Hmm.
Right. So,
Hmm.
and then the thing is that that's really hard for people who are living in the world
Hmm.
to live with. Like, how do you interact with the world if the world doesn't exist and you don't exist?
Hmm.
And so we all are in this game. I mean, part of the point of the game is to pretend that it's real.
Hmm.
And in,
Enjoy it.
pardon me?
And enjoy it.
Yes, and like to be able to have sort of the meta awareness of here I am playing this game, and it's an immersive game, and it looks and feels like it's real, and I signed up for this game that's going to have all this drama, and the car chases, and the all kinds of craziness, and so we get to enjoy that no matter what it looks like,
Mm-hmm.
or not. and
Mm-hmm.
and even if we don't, it's still an experience. Even if we don't awaken
Mm-hmm.
while we're here, it's still, let's imagine that it's consciousness playing out all these wonderful scenarios. It's like writing all these different crazy plays and saying, how about this one, and how about that one? And
Yeah. It's like a theater. We are part of a stage production, and
yes,
it's an individual and a worldly production.
yes,
It's earth production, and um, and so those are awesome questions, because I just did a show yesterday on how to straddle both these worlds. How do you and staying in peace and staying connected, so that you're grounded in your knowingness, as you proceed into whatever is coming into your field, which we also know has a lot to do too with what's going on in our head,
yeah.
right?
And that actually brings up the whole notion of manifesting and how does that work. And this was something you and I chatted about briefly before we started this too, is yes, you can manifest what you want, and there may be divine timing, whatever that is. So I think that uh, the way that we certainly the way that we interact, and you kind of alluded to this earlier where you said the same thing keeps getting presented at different places, different times of your life, to say, okay, now how are you going to react?
Mhm.
As we evolve to a place of non-reaction, but more responsiveness, as we become more present to what's there and are able to move from a place of connection and choice, the quality of our experience is radically altered.
Mhm. So true.
Yeah. And so that really the art of manifestation, I think when we talk about having life be joyful and abundant, and knowing that we're safe, and knowing that we're cared for, and knowing that all our needs are met, which kind of brings us back around.
Mhm.
When we get to that place of fullness in true presence to that, that is what happens.
Mhm. That is, it's I it's letting go to knowing that the force of life has got a story for you, and that force of life, what I call God, is good. It's good. And so if you align with that, is what you're also saying. If you're aligning and you are allowing and accepting what's coming through, to just get in the flow of that, it shifts. That is the law of attraction. That is, I am now not in resistance to what wants to come through me.
Yeah. And that's where we go back to saying we are life expressing itself, or we are
Yes.
consciousness dancing its way through the cosmos in this vehicle that is alive.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really beautiful, um, to understand what we're living, and to start seeing the world as it is. It's beautiful. And then we kind of like, I call it making smudges all over it. We're making smudges with with things that we think, things we believe that are not true, and experiences that we have that were difficult. It just keeps smudging, what we see on the outside. Uh,
I want to say that beauty is not always pretty.
mhm.
you know, so the beauty can be terrible, you know,
Hmm.
like so that there's, and I think that there's, if we're going to take this vantage point, there's no such thing as a smudge.
Hmm. Right.
You know,
There's no such thing as a smudge.
it's
Right.
all part of this whole big tapestry that
Yes.
includes all of it. You know, the polarities are what give it the depth and the richness and the
Hmm.
contrast and the, if we're going to look at it as a play, I mean,
Yes.
you want the tragic components, you want
Hmm.
the comic components, you, because it makes the complete story.
It does. It does. And, one day God and I was talking, and he said, I connect with God as male because that's the way he shows up to me in my images. But I also see Goddess or Divine Mother as God. So, but most of it has been as male. And so he said, he just looked at me square in the eyes and he said, "Welcome to my show."
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even know like where to go with that. He said, "Welcome to my show.
Hmm. Hmm.
This is consciousness's creation."
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
Unbelievable.
you know, it's interesting because I remember going through a very difficult time and finding other people going through difficult times and being in agreement that God must be a sadist. You know, like to just that, like, this is the show and I'm the victim of it instead of
Right.
I'm on the, I'm on the writing
I'm on
team.
the writing committee. I've been part of authoring this big stage production, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that you're playing all parts. Your
Right.
character is playing every part. You
Yes.
have a whole cast of characters inside yourself.
Yes, that we are the world projected.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all fascinating. And I could get so caught up in because I'm fascinated by it. I could get so caught up in trying to figure out the whys and the hows and look at that. That's interesting because I read everything as a metaphor, and
Right.
and I just keep being told just stay in peace, enjoy, be happy, and just love and have great expectations for what's coming in the future for your storyline as it keeps unfolding, and to just, and that's also getting in flow with the story
Mhm.
because um this was about getting your needs fulfilled, our topic. And I never believed that when I was younger that anybody else would do that for me but me, because I didn't experience that from the outside, except for maybe food and kind of physical needs. And so I just tried so hard all my life to fulfill what I need, and really not having an expanded view of what it is that I really needed. It was more of going from survival mode, from victim to survival mode, and then upon awakening, you go into thriver mode. But I thought I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed to make things happen, even after I woke up, because I wasn't trusting enough the plan that was made for me. And I kept hearing over and over again, get your hands off the wheel, get your hands off the wheel. I want to bring you what I have planned for you.
Mm.
I am bringing it to you. You're not doing anything. You think you're doing something, but you're not.
Mm. You know, that's, it's really interesting because as I'm relinquishing control or my illusion of control, which is
Hmm.
really resistance,
Yes,
um, life is flowing so much more easily and richly. It's really quite remarkable.
it certainly is. We get in our own way.
Yes.
We do get in our own way, and there's a process of trust going on, trusting yourself, whether you want to call it your higher self, whether you want to call it God, whatever you want to call that universal life force that's in you, that's moving through you. the more you let go and stop resisting, and a lot of us have labeled that all ego stuff, but everything we are experiencing is of the light. Like you said, everything outside of you, what looks beautiful, not everything looks beautiful. And we have couched this ego consciousness, which is an illusion as well, into not beautiful. And everything needs to be accepted, allowed, of consciousness, as it's all part of you.
Yeah. And
It's all.
I talk a lot about the shadow
Mm-hmm.
and embracing the shadow, not necessarily acting on the shadow, but embracing the shadow. And I actually did this morning on this morning core connection. I read a piece of channeled writing
Mm-hmm.
that I did, and it was really amazing. Actually, it was talking about it is only when you embrace the shadow rather than reviling it
Mm-hmm.
that you and provide yourself with the temptation or the contrast that it offers, that you then win the right to choose the light. And I thought, wow, because if there's only one option, it's not a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And what we get to do here is to exercise our choice. By doing that, it creates a dynamism, a dynamic, and that produces creativity and it expands the universe.
Yes, it does. So it's fluidity of divine consciousness, all of it. And what we've all done is said, no, we don't like that. So that's going to get separated. I'm not going to deal with that. I'm going to push that
Right,
away. I'm
right.
not going to accept it.
I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. I'm going to
Right.
pretend that I'm above it, or I'm going to just ignore it. And that's
That,
not how we evolve. That's how we create chaos.
yes. And I've done it a lot. When I was talking about cognitive dissonance, when
Yes,
I decide that I am going to argue with parts of myself, and,
yes,
and not listen to them, because they're all speaking to me to teach me something that I need to get in harmony with all the diversity inside of myself. and and this is one of the classes that I'll be teaching on the master class, is learning how to do this. And it's a journey. It's a
yeah,
journey because it pops up, it's there, and it's actually there as messages for you. And it helps you stand in your authenticity, in your truth. It helps you stand in your truth.
yeah.
It helps you accept all facets of yourself and understanding that that's your wholeness, all of it. It's
It,
all your
it's all
wholeness.
of it, right? And you cannot be whole just focusing on one part.
Yeah. Like,
It's
I just want to be divine, and the stuff that looks like human, I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to keep rising above that, instead of, no, they got to come together and then and harmonize with each other.
yeah.
We're not split in two. There's only one mind. There's only one energy.
Right. Right. And it's by collapsing that polarity, which you just demonstrated so beautifully. I just want to say, I want to be alert because I actually have another thing on the hour and I didn't want us to have an abrupt end to this.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I'm having such fun.
I know, me too.
But
Me too.
we should talk about having your needs met too,
Yes, and your soul's passion.
is part of that. So when we think about having our needs met, we think about the fundamentals, right? We think about food, shelter, clothing, whatever. Those are fundamentals. And we don't think, or we don't necessarily recognize that it's also a need to have a sense of fulfillment, a sense of purpose, a sense of joy, a sense of love. That these are, or a vision or a purpose. We don't think of those things as needs, but they are. They're fundamental to the experience of life. That's how we grow and expand, right?
Totally agree. Totally agree. So I would see that as each of us, as part of our stories, had passion put in our heart for certain things, a
Yes.
purpose, and that, and you feel it inside of you. You feel it. And you might have gone through your life at times where you didn't feel it, or it comes and it goes, but it's always there. It's always there, and it is the driving force. I mean, you think about how many people say, I had this passion to do something, and I never did it because I was afraid, or I didn't think I could, I didn't have the time, the money, whatever it was, that they chose not to do it. And I could even look back at my own self. I've had passions about lots of things that I put work in front of me instead of some of the things that were really important to myself. And so we are filled with desire in all different ways in these passions, and it's really allowing ourselves to move towards that place, or get in an alignment with it, and then let the universe just bring all of it together for you.
Well,
That's what
that's the magic that happens.
That is the magic that happens when you say, you know what? Yeah, I want to do this, or this is calling to me so much that I'm just going to do it. And giving yourself that, and not worrying about how it's going to happen, or that it happens tomorrow, or a year from now, or 5 years from now. It's just getting in alignment with expectation of, yes, this passion is going to come through. I'm going to be able to do this, and everything will show up when it's supposed to.
Yes. And so I have my own personal story around that. In 2017, November 2017, I had an epiphany where I came in. The way I've been speaking it is, I recognize my life's purpose. And what that is to create this eco park, which is
Mm-hmm.
a phantasmagorical, amazing place where you can learn about and experience all kinds of technologies and paradigms for making a world that is sustainable and that works on all different levels: food, housing, wastewater, health, economics, and consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the key part to all of it. And I was like, wow, that's such a cool vision. Me? No way. Who am I? Who am I? I don't have any connections. I don't know anything about it. I wouldn't know how. And what I did was I took ownership of it. I said, yes, I'm good. That's it. It's like it makes my heart go pit a pat. I'm doing that. And it was like, I have no idea how, and it's emerging. It was the impetus to create the Sustainability Now podcast, which I invite everybody to check out. It's at sustainabilitynow.global. And we have really awesome interviews of people around the world that are doing phenomenal things. And so now I've got these connections with a whole bunch of different people that are doing remarkable things that I want to be able to showcase in this eco park. And now, through these connections, now I'm able to bring these people together, and we're going to have a mastermind to start planning it out and building out a business plan for it, and figure it out. And so it takes saying yes, and then the universe conspires to make it happen. It's remarkable. I mean, you don't get to just sit. Sometimes you do get to just sit back and you get a phone call, which
Yes.
is bizarre. but you also get to be in action about it, but not in like, I have to do it this way. Here's how it's going to happen. What happens is you take a step. It's almost like when they say you step off the edge
Mm-hmm.
and the ground appears. You take a step, and that's what initiates the magic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you are being guided
Yes.
internally through your story to do all of these things. And
Yeah.
that's why we say we're not doing it alone, even though, you know, even though it's just you having this amazing illusion, you're not doing it alone. That consciousness is always bringing it to you. And so that's a great story and inspiring to let people know that yeah, it's and stepping in and saying yes, it's my vision. I
In the
totally
face of
understand.
blind terror.
And yes, and blind terror. Yes,
I
it's
go,
like
what the heck am I thinking?
right.
Yeah,
Yes. I totally understand because when Jesus came to me and said, "Go get your journal and pen, we're going to write." And I said, "I don't know how to write. I've never written anything and my English is not great." And he said, "Well, don't worry, I'm just going to talk and you're going to write down what I said."
it's awesome.
And
That's so
and
amazing.
and then here's all of this wisdom coming out that I didn't understand yet.
Mm,
And things that I'm like, this is like people gonna think I'm crazy. And I had to go through this process of I put out the first three books and it was more of everything that he said because it was sort of like I wouldn't own it. Like here, Jesus dictated these books. This is what he said. And then I realized that I didn't embrace it. I didn't put myself into it. I didn't own it. That this is the gift that was given to me, and that this is what I'm here. I'm a messenger of God, um, of consciousness, of why we're here, and what's going on. And this is my myth. So, so yeah, it is. It completely freaked me out. Went through all kinds of worries of being a fraud and all kinds of other things. And then I had to get to the point. Well, I did another series of books and put my spiritual journey in with it. And
beautiful.
so it was my way of saying I'm taking ownership of this. This is my journey, and I know that love is guiding you all the way. And it's a beautiful story if you allow it to be of transformation.
It's awesome. Awesome.
It is awesome.
I notice, like, just in terms of serendipity, I notice that if I just let myself be, I'll get an impulse. Oh, I should call so and so. And the thing that I have learned through the School of Hard Knocks is listen. It's like when I get an impulse to do it, I do it because, or when I get an impulse about a person or a feeling about a person, like to stay away, I listen. I used to override that. I used to say, oh, but they're a good person. Oh, but, and now it's just like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Or if there's somebody that I have an impulse to talk to, okay.
Right, right.
This has been
It's
so much fun.
I know, I know. I'm loving this conversation and how you can bring your own experiences together. And it's like making a pot of soup, right? You're bringing a little bit of your stuff, a little bit of mine, or everybody else, and it's just you all come up with the same thing. It's we know that there's only love that exists.
Yeah.
It's it all, no matter how you what road you travel to get there or how you think about it and experience it in your mind, there's only love. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, Mira, thank you for spending time with me today. I'm sure we'll do this again.
This was so fun.
It is
Really,
fun.
really wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Please tell people how to get in touch with you.
Well, you can reach me through my website at yourcoreconnection.com, or also sustainabilitynow.global. That's .global instead of .com. And you can check out, it's embarrassing. I don't know what the address is for the YouTube channel, but you can see me on Enlightened World Network, and that's called The Core Connection. You can see me on Well, I'm part of another awesome broadcast on the Enlightened World Network called The Broader Edge, which is on alternate Thursdays, and that's at 5 p.m. Eastern. And I have my own YouTube channel. If you search for the Core Connection podcast, you'll find that. And so I think that's probably good.
Okay. Well, thank you. Reach out to Mira. She's a wonderful coach and does beautiful work. So we will have you back again.
Thank you so much, Deb. So
Yeah.
much love, and for everybody listening, what a pleasure to share this time with you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Me too. So when in doubt, never underestimate the power of prayer. You are being listened to and heard throughout the universe, and it always responds with infinite love. Remember to go inside and listen to the whispers of heaven through your heart. God bless you and have an absolutely beautiful day.
Angel Heart Radio programs should not be used to replace your legal or medical advice, nor your own sound judgment. In truth, nothing can dim your magnificence. You are a divine spark, a universal light. You are here on purpose. You are part of a divine plan. And it's our joy to support you. We're here to celebrate you. Welcome to Angel Heart Radio. Powered by love, Angel Heart Radio is brought to you by AngelLight777.com. A divinely ordered life with spiritual teacher Deb Goldberg on Angel Heart Radio starts now.